So if you saw our last video, we dived into Halo Flashpoint. And for this video, we're gonna be making a board for Halo Flashpoint. But not just any board, we're making Blood Gulch.
That's right, Halo 1's most iconic map for multiplayer, carved into 3 distinct sections and each one a Flashpoint board. So you can play side by side and all together recreate the classic feel of that early 2000s Halo multiplayer. We've already painted up the red versus blue characters from Rooster Teeth's red versus blue. We've made the bunker and we've set up the framework for the Flashpoint maps, but we have so much to do today to make Blood Gulch Blood Gulch. Canyon walls, terrain, foliage, weapon pickup points, teleport zones, and also Murray has a special plan to let Sheila make an appearance.
That's so exciting, I didn't know that.
So check it all out in today's video because we are building Blood Gulch.
Let's do it.
So the first thing we need to do before we can actually start working on the terrain is we need to know where everything is. And luckily we have Halo. So we can jump into the map and kind of scan around, and then using Photoshop, Jan is going to mark out all of the elevation because that's the really important thing. We've deformed elements of the map to make it work as a Flashpoint board, but we need to make sure the elevation is correct so it feels like Blood Gulch. So I'm going to spin around in a ghost a couple of times because it gives me the best perspective. It kind of pulls the FOV back and lets you see a bit more of the map, and we're going to map out all of the different areas in 3 different elevation levels, and then also mark out like foliage, rocks, critical elements that we're going to need to model onto the board. Halo multiplayer is less fun with only yourself though.
So, we have our board. We've done our topology map, so we know the undulation of how everything's meant to look. But obviously, sculptor mold, which is what we want to use, is expensive, takes really long to dry, and can also make the board really heavy. So instead, we're going to use some foam core to sort of bulk out those areas, layering it up, and then using the sculptor mold on top of that to create the actual rock texture. We're also going to use hot glue as well. Typically, we don't like using it, but in this case, it's quick, fast, and nasty, and that's how I like to play, so let's do it.
Don't say that and put that on. Interrupting my own work here and probably your peaceful and lovely time lapse is just to say I had this epiphany that this is one of those really funny moments where I've been standing here, Jen was here, we've been working on it for like 2 hours, and I just sort of realized that it was like 5 seconds of a time lapse, and it's just one of those funny moments where like the most amount of work on a project is often the least interesting, like from a viewer's perspective. So just be aware that even though this montage just is a time lapse that goes and all of the board magically has like all the black foam on it, it's like several hours of chopping foam up. So let's get back to the music. Sorry for the interruption. This has probably taken longer than the time lapse.
Right, that's all well and exciting, but really, what is Halo Flashpoint, and why are we suddenly having such a nostalgic throwback to it all? Halo Flashpoint is basically as close as you can get to playing the actual video game, just on a tabletop with your friends, IRL, if you will. Classic modes like Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, Oddball, King of the Hill. It's all designed to be contained within this board game that you can play with all of the fun little features that made Halo so popular and enticing. Picking up weapons off the ground, picking up all the upgrades, overshields, active camo, all your shield bubbles and everything, because this is actually modern Halo, so you've got all those extra things like grapple hooks, they're all the rage 2 years ago. And of course things like elevated terrain, moving around, charging into combat just to punch your friend to death, because that's what it was all about. Really pissing off your mate. Literal classic red versus blue. And so with this huge condensed ball of nostalgia being crammed into one board game, we wanted to revisit a little bit of our childhoods with Halo 1, where it all began. And so that's why we are starting a little board themed around Blood Gulch. Trying our hand at making some terrain because there's some, cardboard terrain featured in the box, but we wanted to make our own. how cool of a board can we make for this game? But I'm getting off track. Halo Flashpoint, you start with a fire team. 4 characters, in fact, which you can either have pre-selected. They are predefined characters or archetypes within Halo. Various weapons and special abilities like tacticians, deadeyes, etc, etc. Or you can do a sort of drafting system with your friend as well. Those are some sort of advanced rules that the game goes over. But then it's all about setting up the field with the terrain, with the elevation, making sure you have lots of interesting avenues to fight over, choosing the objective type, as I said, capture the flag. The game comes with little flags, that's cool. Setting up the deployment zones and the respawn zones, because of course, this is a classic multiplayer game. You respawn when you die, you don't just stop all your stuff, recharge, just go, go, go. Back into the action. More fun. Ah! What? Pew pew! Ah!
It's now time to do all of the wet work. We've done the topography of everything, built it up, so now we've got to put the wet stuff on so it can dry overnight and we can come back tomorrow and start painting it. But let's get messy. Yeah.
It wouldn't really be Blood Gulch without the vehicles. They're major players in the game, but they're also major players in Red versus Blue, with one of them in particular being named, and that's Sheila, the Scorpion tank. Now, to get a good Scorpion and to 3D print at that scale, I needed to go looking. Now, the problem is most of the models available, they're all available from the future games. There's these subtle changes to design that you don't even think about as you play through generations of game, and the Scorpion actually changed quite a lot. So I actually got 2 Scorpion models. One of them from Alias Zero, which was a Halo Reach version of the Scorpion, which doesn't quite have the right turret, but has some nice detailing on the tracks. And another file I grabbed was a 6mm low poly version by Patrick User, another free download. And this one actually fit the aesthetics of Halo 1, but of course was so low poly it would look terrible. So I set about modifying this slightly. I sliced off the track components from the higher res version, but I kept the central column of the original Scorpion from that 6mm version. However, I didn't want to leave it at that, and I needed to detail out some areas. Some of the pieces missing from the 6mm tank was the smoke launcher on the left side of the turret, as well as the lenses in the turret. The lenses don't exist on the mesh, but they're all detailed in the texture, so I decided to actually 3D model them so they would print out. Another feature that was pretty barren is there's some lumps on the front and side of the tank, but these are actually spare track components when you look at the model in the game. So I created a few little bits of detail that I could basically clad these areas in, and then use the same detail and copy paste them all around the treads so we get some level of texture going in on these parts of the model. The last modification I made to the tank was to give it the absolutely stupid but pointless and iconic convertible treatment to the driver's seat. Because for some reason the Halo driver's seat is just like a Venetian blind that you can shoot through. It's obviously a game balance thing in a game where you couldn't actually blow up the vehicles, but it's so dumb from a design perspective. With all these modifications done, I can slice up the tank and chuck it on our 3D printers, and we can create Sheila, which I'm pretty sure Murray is excited to convert into some terrain for our board.
All right, what we have here is tank. Tank beats everything, including 6 pedals, only 4 directions. The tank is in fact built to scale. Looks really big, but it's to scale with the miniatures, so you can actually stand on the sides of the tracks and such, and will be a nice centerpiece. There's also going to be a bunch of extra stuff, which you'll see later. But for the meantime, we've got all the rocks to populate, and you might be asking, all right, why didn't you just cut out some rocks from polystyrene, you know, really go for that handcrafted look? And the answer is, I did cut them out. I built a bunch of rocks and left them on the table after I did the edging for Jen, and I think she thought they were rubbish and she threw them out. So we printed them instead. That's what you get for hard work and handcrafting here. So the human vehicles in Halo are pretty straightforward. They're that sort of standard early 2000s military, quite dark and just a bit grey. So the easiest way to paint the tank is going to be painting it this really dark green and then dry brush all the really low poly angles with a really desaturated olive green. That should get the really nice dusty intended look, and then I can pick out all the little details. The rocks I'm going to do a little bit differently. Of course, starting priming from black so it can cover all the funny orange plastic. I'm going to give them a light dusting of red, followed by purple, which is going to create this really mottled look, from which I'm going to immediately start dry brushing them grey. This is going to give some really warm and interesting undertones to the rock, and while it sounds a bit weird to do this to a rock, I'll let the results speak for themselves. The trees are super simple, desaturated brown, almost a khaki, slap that down, and then give it a light dry brush towards the edges.
Now, we do hope you've noticed that recently we've really returned to our roots and we're trying to have a whole lot of fun at making videos you can enjoy just about stuff we're interested in. We're not really particularly interested in chasing the YouTube algorithm and twisting ourselves into a knot. So if you really are enjoying this latest wave of videos, we're kind of looking at it as almost like starting from scratch again. We've got to rebuild the core audience. We've got to build viewer trust and confidence that we're going to keep making stuff like this. But the best way to keep us going over this time is your support. I know you hear it on a lot of channels, but we're a pretty big operation who can make a lot of cool content relatively quickly, and we would love your support. If you'd consider going onto the Patreon and joining up, you can get access to mini review, which we do every month, as well as access some behind the scenes content. We do vlog updates where we kind of talk about the performance of videos and what's going on behind the scenes. But also, as we make more stuff like this, we'll be able to do things like give away all of the STL files we made for free. So if you want to print your own Flashpoint scaled low poly bunker from Blood Gulch, I'm going to be putting that up for all our patrons to enjoy. So the links are in the description. Please consider signing up. But if you maybe aren't in a position to support financially and want to help share the word of a project we're doing, or maybe thinking of Christmas presents, I'll also put the link for Magnascape. It's a big project we're working on. We've made some amazing changes. We're really excited to be doing not one, not two, but 3 different magnetic themed packs that you can use for all your RPG gaming. We think this is going to be a great idea. So if you know any DMs, just go check them out and give the page a follow. That boosts its awareness and lets everyone know what we're doing. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry to take the time out of this, but back to finishing Blood Gulch.
So the boards are all dry. They're pretty much ready to go. We are going to put on a coat of paint, base coat, because we need an establishing layer of paint. It's going to be the same color as the sculptor mold that we put on originally. So it's like sandy stone color, Halo Blood Gulch color. And we're going to use lots of acrylic paint because it's cheap.
Tomorrow time. This is all dry, so it's time to make it look a bit more green. The halo ring is really actually quite vibrant. Again, this is 2001. We haven't quite hit the really dirty Call of Duty, Gears of War, everything is brown and sepia yet. So there's a lot of life here. So we want to make the grass start to go really vibrant, really quickly. This is a mix of paint and PVA glue. It's going to do 2 things. It's going to make it bright, and then it's going to allow all the flock to go on immediately and get glued in because it's glue. Ta-da! So I'm gonna do this, avoid all the roads, because that's where all the little tracks are. They're sort of like dug in and they'll stay brown. I'm gonna follow all parts of the map that are green. It's a bit of coloring in. We can do it. I believe in us.
What are we doing, Jen? What are we doing, Jen?
So the flock is stuck onto the board and it's looking really good. It's pretty much all dry, which is great. Don't eat it.
It's not stuck on the board.
Oh,
no.
You're not meant to eat it though. Oh. So the next step is to kind of pick out some of this sort of brownish looking area because it looks a bit, the contrast is really weird. So we're gonna dry brush this brown color to lift it up a little bit and make it blend all together.
And hopefully improve the taste. So we've dry brushed in a bit of texture and a bit of color variation. The next thing to do is to work on the paths. Now these are significantly more pale. So we're gonna mix up almost like a khaki color or a sandstone color, and then focus that in around where the bunkers go on the play spaces, and also down the roads, there's a few mountain paths and things like that. Same techniques, mostly stippling and dry brushing, but with a far higher level of contrast. It's also the second day of summer, and it feels like winter, as you can tell. Okay, I've been doing the roads and I just noticed something. If you remember from earlier in the video when I painstakingly mapped out the topology of the map, and then Jen and I painstakingly did the topology of the map with all of the foam core, and we built all that, and then we put the sculptor mold on it. Well, what's happened is whoever it was that flocked the board has got this upside down when they did it. So now I need to go back and basically...
No. It was already backwards in my head when I sculpted the edges.
Then
he did topology.
So he'd pre-made the mistake.
Yeah. I pre-made the mistake and then I accidentally doubled down without realizing.
So it's not Jen's fault. Look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whose fault it was. We're all a team here, and all we know is that I wasn't the person whose fault it was. It doesn't matter. The thing is that now we just have to fix it. And the good news is, because the scale of the board is so zoomed out, it really doesn't matter. We can just paint straight over this flock and then just reapply flock where we need to. It just adds more texture. It kind of looks like sand. But it does add a little bit of time. So I'm gonna go now and basically use my reference and yeah. Fix. Flipped it again. Every time Murray gets it, he turns around. Or is it you as well? It's both of you.
You're the only one.
You're
who touched
sickos.
that piece of
You're all
paper.
sick.
You're the only one who touched it.
So we're back at the computer because I have to make a few more props, and I had a bit of a brainwave. I don't need to sculpt anything. People already did that in the year 2000. With some of these really old games, you can actually go to game resources and pretty much download all the official game models, and provided they're in files that modern software can read, like a nice OBJ, you can just open them up. And oftentimes they have some issues. They might be too low poly, or you might need to fix some areas. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we actually had the original files 3D printed for our game? What's more 2001 Halo Combat Evolved than Blood Gulch with the original props? So I'm gonna print out the iconic ones, especially in the centerpiece, which of course means the spanker, for those who don't know, the rocket launcher, fuel rod cannon, and other major guns you pick up, such as the sniper rifles, which sit up on top of the bunkers, and the iconic Halo assault rifle. And with all of these, I have to delete a couple of nodes that are on the models. This is really easy, but those nodes are basically animation markers that don't show up in the game, but if you print them, they'll be pretty obvious on the model. And I'm also going to use a Boolean tool to basically plane off the bottom of the weapons. All the weapons clip through the floor of the map slightly, and it will make a way more seamless game experience if, rather than having these pieces rolling around the battlefield, they're just flush onto the ground, which feels really appropriate for in-game pickups. Now, while I was cruising through this asset library, I also found the original assets for the vehicles, which makes me think I maybe could have used the original Scorpion asset and saved myself a bunch of time, but I decided to do that with the Ghost. The more we make on these three boards, the more I look at that central map and realize we need some in-universe themed props to have good games of Flashpoint. Flashpoint is best with a piece of terrain in every 3 squares, they say, for line of sight and cover. So I thought, what's more organic on Blood Gulch than actually having the vehicles that people have discarded as they've been driving all over the map? And we can focus those vehicles on the center map, and it's gonna feel a little bit like that's where the bloodshed's happening. Maybe snipers are picking off the drivers of the vehicles, but it'll just make some nice line of sight blockers and movement blockers. So playing on that board, while it won't be the ideal Flashpoint experience, it'll feel very cool. So it's time to put these on the printer and then get to painting. So my Ghost that I've got from the game files of Halo Combat Evolved has printed. I just did auto supports. These 3D printer filament printers are getting so good. And now I get to give it to Murray to paint. It's scaled perfectly against the Scorpion, so I'm pretty sure it's exactly what we want. Murray, I have Ghost.
Oh, nice.
I'm actually pretty stoked with
wow.
this.
Little polygons.
So providing this all comes off, we're losing. Okay, that'll need a bit of a fix. Ghost, complete with footholds, handholds, guns, OG, polygonal, just like we like them. That works so well, I'm definitely gonna print another because nothing gets abandoned in the Midlands of Blood Gulch more than ghosts. People get murdered, people jump out, they get the flag, they grab the overshield or the rocket launcher, and then they die. So I'm gonna go print another one. Murray appreciates it, I can tell.
And at about this time, I was confronted with some new additions. a warthog, which I'm going to paint exactly the same as the tank. Lots of dark greens. Again, humans, easy. And then a curveball. I have a ghost. Now this ghost, I'm going to paint a couple of different colors to get that really interesting Covenant sheen.
Oops, winning.
I'm going to start with the blue and red and then overbrush a whole lot of purple onto the top. That'll make it really stand out, and then of course I can pick out all the details once again.
All of the paths are taking shape, but as I look at the board, there's one thing that just is really missing for me, and that is the cliff face that you walk around and snipe from. There's this protruding piece of cliff, and while on most of the board we've kept it low because we're going to use backdrops to simulate the canyon walls, this one area protrudes into the map, so it will just feel wrong to not build it. So I'm going to knock together some foam and basically carve out what will become the cliff that protrudes into Blood Gulch, and that will give a little bit more flavor, I hope. So that involves sticking some foam together, gluing it together, then using the hot wire cutter to basically make the canyon, and somehow making the half pipe thing. I don't really know how that's going to work out, but I'll try it. It kind of does that. I don't know. Let's just do it. So one of the last things the board needs is its backdrops, and we've got this really cheap foam here, and I'm thinking that's not tall enough. It just doesn't give the Blood Gulch vibe. So what I'm going to do is, we've got 2 of these pieces. I'm going to cut them into thirds, probably. We'll measure it first. The idea will be that we'll then have 6 panels and we can kind of move them around. It'll be enough to cover 2 sides of a board if you're gaming, be enough for us to do reveals. And if we need more, we can make more. It's fine. But for now, let's start with a reasonable amount. I'm going to measure this up. If that feels tall enough, about to my thumb, then I'll cut them all out and start foam carving them. I've made the overshield from Halo. I modified the original game file and I've printed it on transparent filament, which was entirely new to me. It's a little bit foggy, but I'm going to see if I can use some paint to make it look the way I want, like that wonderful power up from the game. So when I modified this file, what I did is I booleaned out, that basically means subtracted the shape of a sphere from the inside of the overshield. Then I used a cylinder to bore a hole up in the underside, which will allow me to fit a little paintbrush in here and, in theory, paint the inside of that sphere, which when viewed from the outside will look like it's a transparent cube containing a glowing weird ball, you know, whatever the overshield looks like. And then as a finishing touch, I can paint all of the little corners. Well, look at that. That turned out surprisingly well, given it was a quick little print and my first time playing with transparent FDM.
It's now time to paint the blue bunker, and I'm going to paint it exactly as I did for the red team in the previous video, which you have totally watched, so you know exactly how I did it. So I'm not going to tell you again. One big hint though, I used blue instead of red. Then when it comes to painting the guns themselves, I just Googled images of the guns from the first game. It's actually quite interesting to see how they've evolved and gotten more polygons over the years. When it comes to the human guns, those are mostly black casing with a bit of metal. So that's fairly easy. And that's all done. Now Dave just simply has to re-establish the grid lines as they sort of got hidden with all the mounds and terrain. And with that done, I think we're well overdue for some reveals.
A huge thank you to all of our Patreons. It's because of you guys we can make awesome videos like this one, and we've had so much fun making this board for Halo Flashpoint. If you'd like to consider joining, all the links are down in the description below, and we would love to have you as a member.
Well done, everyone. This is very cool. It's very fun. With the canyon walls up, it looks a lot more Gulchy, but we took them down so you can see our face. Gulchy is such a...
Awful word. I love how colourful it is too. I think some of the boards we've made in the past for other games have been very dark and depressing.
Yeah, this definitely looks like it's from an era.
I think the vision I still have is 3 people playing games of Flashpoint side by side. I'd be really excited to see that. And it comes to life when you put those low poly props from the original game, like this ghost, which is just from the game files. It's super cool. It's been a lot of fun. So we really hope you've been enjoying this, I guess, renaissance of Tabletop Time. We're trying to get back into just making fun projects, but the best thing you can do is like, subscribe, watch, and share, and, you know, get those viewer count numbers up if you like what we're doing.
Time to go play Halo.
I was gonna say the same thing. Second round?
I was gonna give you a sneak peek for next week's video. Stay tuned if you like bingo, bango, bongo, I don't wanna leave the Congo. Anyway, something like that. You get the idea.
I know what the project is. I have no idea what you said.
Bingo, bango, bongo, I don't wanna leave the Congo.
No.